Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tiny Blue Games. My name, of course, is Seesaw or Chris, and today we're playing Guild Wars 2. And specifically, we're looking at the Path of Fire demo play from the previous demo weekend. There is a new demo weekend coming this weekend, the 18th to the 20th, that's more focused on the elite specs, where you get to try those out in SPVP and World v World. Whereas the previous one was about the new Crystal Desert area and mounts. So they're very different from each other, but you may as well still give it a try. It's available to everyone. You don't have to pre-order. You don't have to have an actual paid account. You just need to have a free Guild Wars 2 account and you can go and play it. So I don't know why you wouldn't go and try those specs out. They sound absolutely amazing. But we're going to talk about the previous demo in this video and my thoughts on it and why I'm super thrilled about this expansion. And it's just going to be awesome. So what you're watching right now is the sort of cinematic we get when we go into the demo. It places us on this ship and we watch ourselves sail across the land to the Crystal Desert. Now, we don't know the story steps in between where we left off the story in the episode 6 of Living World Season 3 and this actual story step. We don't know the sort of steps that happen between there, because you'd assume that there would be a little bit of a build up as to us just walking at least to the ship, wherever it is. But maybe they'll just have us like randomly end up on the ship. I don't know. I like to believe that there's a tiny little bit of story step between there, but we won't get too hung up on that. The actual ship ride is done quite well. There can be some arguments made that why don't we just go through some of the existing doors that we know go towards the Crystal Desert, like through Ebonhawk, and that's fair. But I think the ship does make it seem like a pretty grand journey, which is really nice. And particularly what they did well is they actually showed us flying for quite a while. So it did make it feel a bit more epic in that sense. It's not like we just took like an Azura Gate and randomly ended up in the Crystal Desert, which I hate to say it, but like you could see that being the case and that would be so much worse. So I'm pretty happy with how it starts. You get some of the music and some of the scenery. So what you notice coming down there is that we're actually with our mount ability already. If you were doing the story for the first time, you would not have your mount until you get the mount in the story step. And I will tell you when that is in this video. But the reason we do have it on this character is because we've already done it on an alt character. So whenever you redo the story on your alt tunes, you get your mounts right from the get-go. And that's kind of just a nice quality of life feature because you already know how to get the mount. So, you know, you may as well be able to use it right away. Right now we get to fight the Forged, which are a new faction that are Balthazar's allies, and they are pretty damn sweet. We can see some new animations for sure, those like sort of fire things that go out from the monsters, and definitely some new models for some of the creatures as well. It's a very fun faction. We get to see a few of them in the story, but particularly in the first map, you see some really cool ones that use the map and sort of the desert theme, as well as a very fiery Balthazar theme. Like, I think they're really great compared to a lot of the mercenaries that we've seen Balthazar with in the previous episodes. So right away, we're just doing a lot of fighting. I think it's a pretty good way to start any story. I mean, they're going to try and make you feel like a badass. That's how the story is. The actual dialogue in Guild Wars 2 has become a bit more funny. And like, you know, how badass the commander is and stuff like that. It definitely gets put out a fair bit more, which I do like. But the actual story has some ups and downs, and we'll talk about that as we go. You do get to fight this sort of Herald of Balthazar right away. Pretty cool fight, I guess, in some senses, as the actual monster just sort of avoids you, or doesn't avoid you, but just ignores you and goes and kills your allies while you try and do enough damage to sort of stop her from wanting to do that, which is a very interesting thing because pretty much everyone's always like attacking you, and in this case they could care less about the Dragon Slayer. They're just like going and killing people you care about, which I think is pretty interesting. This slam attack also does do a fair bit of damage, but there's a pretty big wind up for it, so the fact, like, you're not going to get caught in it if you're paying attention. I should also note that the characters that we got for the demo weekend were just generic builds with gear already preset on them. You could switch it out once you got to a bank, but I'm pretty sure you had to get to the main city to do that. So anyone going through the story step would be sort of dealing with the gear that is exotics. And like, I mean, I didn't go to the trouble of setting my specializations or anything like that. So it worked out pretty well as a Revenant anyways. I had a lot of fun. I'm pretty excited to try out the new elite specs, though. That's kind of a letdown of the previous demo, where we didn't get to do the elite specs and just got the mounts and the desert. I don't think it was a mistake, because I think it was a good idea for Guild Wars 2 veteran players to really focus on one part of the game and then focus on the other part of the game. My concern, though, is that if new people coming to the game wanted to try out everything in one weekend, like if they were super excited to play the Mirage in the desert, like that was their like huge thing about this expansion, if they didn't get that experience because it is split into the 2 weekends, will they come back for the second weekend, or will they kind of just forget about this and be like, oh, it wasn't all that I hoped it would be? I hope that doesn't happen, and I kind of don't think that'll be the case for most people, but maybe it will for some people. There's been a lot of back and forth in the community about whether this was a good thing or not. The really big thing that this comes down to is the fact that the expansion is launching like within a month or a month and a half of being announced, which is so different than last time when we had months and like a week dedicated to each elite spec to like talk about, and they like hinted at us, and it was just so much preamble and hyping, right? And this is the very different policy of communication where, we're not going to talk about this shit until it's happening, and now it's happening, and you just have to process it. So that's I don't know. It's up for debate. I don't know which you guys preferred. Would you have liked it if like the demo included everything, or do you like it split up like this? It's not bad for myself as a content creator, as small as I am. I do like the idea that I can make a bunch of videos based on solely the features, which this is the first of that kind of video coming out. I'll do a video on like mounts and bounties and that kind of thing in the next week. And then after that, I can work on videos specifically about elite specs, and I'll have like my new footage from this weekend, and I'll be able to slowly push those out as we go towards the expansion. So it's been kind of nice to pace myself that way, and maybe it paces all of the content creators out that way, so that we have a regular amount of videos coming to the community in between now and the expansion. And that might be the smart way of doing it, though I do know a lot of the content creators had already played that first demo weekend, so I don't know what it gets you. But yeah, it's a pretty cool mission. You get to fight a lot of different creatures, and right after you fight off the Herald, you fight these 2 little dogs. I guess they're not really dogs. They're forged warhounds, so they're a bit more badass than dogs. But that's definitely a theme with Balthazar's, these sort of warhounds of fire. We see the city, or this like little village or whatever, is burning up pretty good. The fire is a pretty big theme too, with all of Balthazar's attacks. But what's really cool about the city and the story instance is that you actually can come to this little city area in the regular map, and it's like a heart place, but you're also in it in a story instance, because they have this new technology where they move the allowable area. Like if you look at my mini map right now, you'll see that there's a whole bunch of area that's sort of red. And if I tried to walk out towards any of those areas in the map, it would be like, hey, you're in a story episode. You can't go there right now. But now, as the story moves from destination to destination, they can move this area around with you. And we haven't really seen that. But it allows them to keep the same instance going where, it's just you or people you're partied with in multiple locations around the map. And that's a pretty interesting tool that I think they will use in different ways. So this is kind of where we're about to get our mount. We go talk to these guys right here. They're like, oh no, Balthazar's Herald came through here and it's not going so well for us. Can you help us out? And this guy's like, yo, I've got a fire extinguisher like chilling here for some reason. Guess what you get to do? So we get to go save the town, and I'm going to speed it up because the most boring part of the story step is this part. And it's like the most traditional tedious thing where you just go around putting out fires and rezzing dead people, and you do get to like save some raptor mounts from the fire, which is the cool part because you're like, oh my god, I get to keep one of these at the end of them. But like really this is like the most boring ass heart stuff. And I've heard other people complain about this part too. Just it's not a very exciting, engaging thing to be doing in the first instance, especially when you're trying to give a demo to people who haven't played the game in a while. Yes, the very first fight scene was good, but why are you showing off how we can put out fires and like res people for like a while to finish out a heart? That it's just not fun, really. and don't get me wrong, I do like a bit of that mixed in with my gameplay. Like, I don't have anything inherently wrong about putting out fires and doing little tasks like that. It just doesn't seem like a blockbuster story step to really try and get people interested in it. So you see there that you will get to mount the mounts, I guess, once you save them from fire, and then you can use them sort of to jump from building to building. And that leads me to probably the best part of this entire demo for me. Yeah, I'm just going to speed this up because it's going to take forever. But the best part of the entire demo, and this goes into the actual map that you're going to play in, is the mounts. The mounts are done extremely well. All you get is the Raptor mount, and that's just one of the 4 mounts, and it feels incredible. The skills you get to actually like attack enemies, the skills you get to jump from building to building, it's just so good. Like, you can just leap across things. You can just tap it once and it jumps a little bit. You can tap it a whole bunch, or hold it and it'll jump even further. There's a lot of things you can do with it, and they've built the entire first map that we'll talk about more in a later episode based on this skill. It really allows you to feel like you're making decisions in terms of when you want to jump or where you want to jump to, right? And then the mastery system works beautifully with it because it allows you to unlock different skills for your mount. It allows you to, jump further based on a mastery, and then obviously unlock other mounts as you go on. So I think it was mind-boggling that mounts were such a game changer for me, and that's just one of the 4 mounts that start in the expansion. And I don't know what will come in later updates, but it could be that we get even more different types of mounts as we keep playing, which is just super exciting. It was also confirmed throughout the demo that you do get the mounts in all of Guild Wars 2, so the entire world gets mounts, much like how gliding is involved everywhere as well. And I think that's a really good idea. You could have seen it going the other way, like where they would just limit it to the expansion area, just because, I don't know, like that you can buy the 2 expansions just by themselves, and maybe they didn't want to go to the effort of making it so you can use it everywhere, or maybe it would have been weird for some people to be allowed to use them in certain places and others not. But I'm glad with how they did it. The area you can't use it in, though, is SPVP and World v World. Now, SPVP, I kind of understand it because mounting doesn't really make sense for Conquest. It just, I don't know, you don't have to go that far. World v World, however, just got gliding, which is pretty big. And honestly, if you were to ask me if gliding or mounts would have gone to World v World, I'd been like, it would be really easy to implement mounts because, it's pretty much ground-based stuff with some jumps, so you could just make the walls a little bit higher in places. Whereas gliding, there's a bit more work that they have to do probably. But the fact that they've done it for gliding, I'm strongly suspecting that they would put in the effort. My little hammers blitzed around me there for a second. That they would put the effort in to make mounts a thing in World v World, because I can't think of a more fun way to travel around World v World. And World v World is just a great exploration area. So putting mounts together with it just sounds delicious to me. And we are out of this sort of cave area. We're learning about more of the desert area. So this is, you can see a bit more of the open world map here, but don't worry, I'll actually do a full-on exploration of it in one of the other videos I have planned. It's a pretty cool place. It's got a lot of different scenery that we don't see at all in Guild Wars 2. The closest place we have to a desert is obviously Dry Top in those areas. And yes, there's kind of some quicksandy areas that are similar looking and just some of the sandy places, but there's a lot more different characteristics. We have some lushness contrasted with the desert, some canyony area, and the day-night cycle on this map just rocks. You just stand places and just suck it in. It is amazing. And actually some of the hills, if you look at them, will start sort of leaking sand down them from time to time, and the wind will blow the sand. It is just really great. We're getting to the very first city and pretty much the main city of this map, which I might try and use as my main city now instead of LA, but whatever. It's a really cool city as well. I'm thrilled with this entire demo, and this was me trying to sort of just explain what happened in the demo. The next few videos that I'm going to put out to you guys about this is going to be specific features and why I think they rock, because this rocks. This entire expansion is just killing it, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was, a little bit a little bit much to take in, but we'll try and do little bite-sized pieces for the next videos. I'll see you then. Have a good time, guys.